Hello! Right now we will discuss about assessing listening presented by Ella, Bella, and Yogi. First of all, we will discuss the theory first, and after that we will give our analysis of the listening tests that have been given to us. Many people are confused about the difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is one of the traditional five senses and simply involves the ability to hear sounds through the ear. It doesn't matter whether we understand the sounds or not. But listening, on the other hand, is all about making sense of what we have heard. What makes listening difficult? First, low concentration. It can be the result from the lack of interest in the subject material or stress, and maybe there is also visual distraction like the audio is not really clear. Second, we are trying too hard. Usually, we, the listeners, only get the information that is not relevant at all. We need to prioritize the information to pick out what is most important rather than give equal weight to everything we hear. It makes it difficult to retain the information we need. Third, the cultural differences, such as the speaker's accents, vocabulary, and misunderstandings, can also be the problem for the process of listening. So, there are four types of listening: intensive, responsive, selective, and extensive. After this, we will discuss one by one. The first one is intensive. Intensive is listening for perception of the components, such as phonemes, words, intonation, discourse markers, and etc., of larger stress of language. There are two types of intensive listening. The first one is recognizing phonological and morphological elements. In both cases there, A and B, the phonemic distinctions are the target, so we choose the correct consonants and vowels between A or B based on what we hear. Next, on the left side, which is morphological pair with ed ending, hearing the past tense morpheme in the sentence challenges, especially if no context is provided. Then, on the right side, stressed and unstressed words may also be tested too. We need to pay attention of listening. Is it can or can't? The last one of recognizing phonological and morphological elements is one-word stimulus. We need to choose the correct one between A or B, and both of them have one word different. For example, in there, the word V and W. Then, for the second type of intensive listening is paraphrase recognition. A. Sentence paraphrase. In this test example, the word come from is being tested. We should choose the right answer with the correct paraphrase. Next, B. The dialogue paraphrase. Here, the goal is we need to recognize of the adjective form used to indicate country or origin. Is it American or Canadian? That's all of intensive listening. So now let's move to the second type, responsive. Responsive is listening to a relatively short stretch of language. For example, a greeting, question, comment, comprehension, in order to make an equally short response. There are two types of responsive listening. First one, appropriate response to a question. The objective of this example question, there is recognition of the WH question, how much, and its appropriate response. The distractors are chosen to represent common learner errors. The first one is how much versus how much longer. Second one, confusing between how much in reference to time versus money. Third, confusing a WH question with yes or no question. The second is open-ended response to a question. It are words in which we, the listeners, should write or speak the response. In this, we can learn how to be creative regarding to write or speak the right answer. Now let's move on to the third type of listening. It is selective. Selective means is listening to a short monologue for several minutes in order to scan for certain information. There are many types. It can be listened for names, numbers, grammatical, directions, or certain facts and events. So the first one is listening clues. This type requires us to listen to a story, monologue, conversation, or song lyrics and then read the written text in which selected words or phrases have been deleted. So these two are the examples of listening clues. We need to fill in the blanks with the correct words based on what we listen to. Next, selective listening can also be assessed through an information transfer technique, in which the processed information must be transferred to a visual representation, such as this first example. Multiple picture cue selection. We should identify which the correct picture that match with the speaker. Second, it can be a form of single picture cued verbal multiple choice. This is the example of TOEIC listening test. So one single photograph is presented to us, then we hear four different statements and must choose one of the four to describe the best answer to that picture. Third, chart filling. In this example, we can hear one student's daily schedules and we should fill the table to complete it. And finally, this is the last type of listening, which is extensive. Extensive is a global understanding of listening to a conversation and deliver a comprehensive message. For example, listening for the gist, for the main idea, and making inferences. The first type is dictation. Dictation is assessing listening comprehension when we will hear a passage typically of 50 to 100 words replayed 3 times, first at normal speed, second with slower speed or long pauses, and third is normal speed again so we can check our word and proofread. Second, it is communicative stimulus response text. We listen to a stimulus monologue or conversation and then we should answer to a set of comprehension questions. The last type of extensive listening is authentic listening. The first one is note taking. In the classroom, usually teachers can ask the students to submit an outline at the end of the class after listening to a teacher's material or can be the part of listening exercise. So this is the example of teacher scoring. The total score is 30, so you will get 30 if for each part you have the maximum score, 5 plus 10 plus 15. Second, editing is another authentic task, provides both a written and a spoken stimulus and requires us to listen for discrepancies. Discrepancies means the differences. So we will read the transcript of the spoken version and circle any words that shows the differences between the two versions. Third, interpretative text. It is about paraphrasing a story or conversation such as song lyrics, poetry, reports, or etc. It is also one of the intensive listening that we have discussed before, but the difference is in this we should give our interpretation by answering a few questions related with WH question. For example, why was the singer feeling sad? What events might have led up to this poem? What do you think the political activists might do next and why? Last, retelling. We will listen to a story or news event and just simply retell it or summarize it, either orally or in writing. We must identify the gist, main idea, purpose, supporting point, and conclusion to show full comprehension. So that's all for the theory, and this is the references that we use.
Now we are going to be talking about the listening test in English department. The first of all is lyric training. This is a website game like where players have to fill the blank to complete the lyrics. The players can choose their own songs to play. It also has 4 levels: beginners, intermediate, advanced, and expert. Every right answer worth scores and extra time, while wrong answers worth the opposite. The type of this test is selective, specifically listening close, as the players have to fill the gap with the right words. The strengths of this test are: first, it is fun and fresh with music and videos, as the students can feel like playing game. Second, the blank words consist of nouns, adverbs, verbs, tenses, and prepositions, so the vocabulary is varied and expansive. Next, it challenges students' concentration as well as listening skill, because they have to be fully focused and quick to play the game, as the pace of the song could be so fast, especially for upbeat songs. Lastly, the students or the teacher can choose the game level based on the level of the students. Then, the weaknesses. Firstly, students may get to guess the words without understanding the meaning. Some words may be unfamiliar for the students, and they may be lucky to get it right. But it couldn't benefit their vocabulary expansion, as they don't get the meaning of the words. Secondly, some blank words are repetitive. The chorus part of the song has the most repetitive words, as that part could be repeated twice or 3 times in a song. It would make the game feel easier and less challenging for the student. Lastly, it needs internet network. If there is any error happened with the internet, students cannot access the website and the test cannot be done properly. Last but not least, the improvement we suggest for this test. Teachers can design their own offline version of lyrics training. The teachers only need to make it a paper-based test and download the song before the test starts. Teachers may choose the song selectively based on the student's level and ability. And for sure, teachers also can make their own choice of song parts and words so that the blank words can be less repetitive. The second test is making outline. In this test, teacher plays a TED Talk video or audio twice, while the students will take notes of it in the form of an outline. These are the examples of the outline in the video. The form of the test is note-taking, which is the type of extensive authentic test. Talking about the strengths, the first one is it can improve both listening and writing skills. Then, as the students are forced to taking notes while listening, it can also exercise their concentration. Lastly, the outline can reflect what students have been focusing on, whether or not they notice the points of the topic. In the opposite, the weaknesses of the test are firstly, it is put at the end of the test after students did the other sessions. Before coming to the outline, the students have to do other exercise first, such as vocabulary, multiple choices, etc. It can lead to exhaustion as the outline making needs high concentration to perform two tasks at the same time. Secondly, students have not learned about making outline before. In English department, outline is introduced in writing one class in the second semester. Meanwhile, this outline test was conducted in the listening one class in the first semester. The teacher only gave brief overview at the moment before the test because the time was running out, so the students were surprised and panicked. And lastly, the scoring may be time-consuming as the teacher has to read and examine the notes of all students one by one. Our suggestion on the improvement for the test is the teacher may give some practices in a regular meeting before the test, so the students can prepare well. The next test is movie review. The teacher divides students into groups and gives each group an Indonesian movie different to one another to be reviewed in a form of a video. The review covers synthesis, strengths and weaknesses, and lessons of the movie. Then, in the next meeting, all groups will do peer evaluation to each other's video. The type of this test is extensive authentic because it is retelling a movie. Now, what are the strengths of this test? First, it involves students' creativity. The students can create their video in their own style, not only being creative in making the visual of the video, but also in the content. For instance, including self-introduction, personal impression of the movie, or opening and closing greeting of the video. Second, it improves both listening and speaking skills. Although the movie is in Bahasa Indonesia, the review has to be in English. Thus, it can help to boost students' speaking skill. In peer evaluation, the students have to listen to other groups' video before giving comments about it. Therefore, it can help to improve their listening skill. And third, in the reviewing process, students can replay the movie scenes as many times as they want. Usually, the video or audio in class is only played twice, so the time to gather information is limited. While in this project, the students get many chances to replay again and again. Next, the weaknesses. Peer evaluation can be subjective and not reliable, as students might be too kind-hearted in evaluating their friends or close friends from other groups. And lastly, the scoring would take a really long time, since the teacher has to watch and evaluate the videos one by one, plus examining the peer evaluation. To improve this test, the teacher may set a duration for the video, for instance, 5 until 10 minutes only, so the scoring would be less time consuming. Lastly, the teacher may consider to give the scores of peer evaluation for the evaluators only. The students' comment may be judged by the content depth of the comments or grammatical mistakes they make, for example.
So the next is the interview footage. So the students will listen to an audio footage of an interview. It could be a radio interview or a podcast, and the students will answer some question that based on the audio footage. And at the end, it will be followed by the note taking. So there are two strengths of this activity. The first is enhance the students' ability in capturing information, and the second is stimulate students to do an effective note-taking strategy. Because in listening, we have to take some notes, and then we have to keep up with two stuff, which is the first is the audio, and then the note that we're taking at the moment. So sometimes it's kind of tricky to keep up with these two things. The weaknesses of this test is first the audio quality, and second is the interviewer's accent. The improvement for this test is teacher can use talk show footage that involves one type of language. What I mean is the speakers have to be someone that sound like a native speaker. Next is the TED talk. The organization of TED talk is quite the same with interview, where the students will listen to speakers. On the interview, the students will listen to two people or more discussing about something, while in TED talk, there will be only one speaker. Usually, the person is an expert on stuff that they're going to talk about. After the students watch the clip, there will be some questions based from the clip. At the very end, it will be followed with outline making. For the strengths itself, it's quite beneficial for the students because it can broaden the students' knowledge, and for sure it will stimulate the students to think critical because this way of thinking is needed in the university. And for the weaknesses, it's still the same with the interview, which is the speaker's accent, because people that are invited to this event can be from anywhere, and maybe some unfamiliar terms with the speakers can be challenged for the students because there's a possibility that the speaker would talk something that is really scientific. For the improvement, the teacher can put some limitations for the content that will be discussed, so the teacher has to make sure that the students have the basic knowledge of the content. So next is conversation video. So for the disclaimer, we don't find another test that related with listening, so we just pick this as the alternative. So because this is the one that we remember, so we just put it anyway. So the teacher will put the students into a group and ask the students to make a conversation and record it as a video. The basic idea of this assignment is to accustom student listening skill with their friend speaking skill. Since English is not the first language, it's a struggle to catch what people say. The strength of this activity is more in enhancing the speaking skill of the student instead of the listening skill. Unfortunately, the teacher is not involved directly in this because it's a home assignment. The teacher only knows the result, which is the video that will be submitted, but the teacher can really take part in enhancing the student's listening skill. For the improvement, it's better if this type of activity can be done in class. The students can get a direct guidance from the teacher and the progress can be followed up by the teacher more effectively. So that's all for the presentation. Thank you.